In this video, we'll talk about the daily and weekly price action of Tesla. I know everyone loves to hate it. We'll talk about the long and short dated options interest, and we'll touch on some Tesla news. There's always stuff going on for Tesla, and we'll check that out. Long story short, still a core position in my portfolio and expecting big things 2026, 2027. But I wouldn't get too excited about 2025 price action if I was you. But let's get into it.
Right, I'm back from holiday. It's Tesla Tuesday. I really wanted to get some content out because it's been so long. My computer's having an absolute nightmare. My normal microphone is not working in this other office, and my wife's in the other office. My camera, I can't use it because all the stands for it in the other office. So we're doing onboard audio and visual. So bear with me. And this is the first time I'm really looking at the chart properly since holiday. I've been keeping abreast of all the price actions and stuff, but really just, keeping on top of it. I've not been really diving into levels. I've just been sticking to what I had looked at before I went away and did my trims and stuff. Good news is, though, Tesla is booming, so I haven't really needed to touch any of that. The bad news is Tesla is booming. So, sorry, my dog just walked in. My initial plan was for crypto profits to be rotated into Tesla, hoping that it stays low. That hasn't been the case. The breakout happened sooner than expected and a lot more violently than I expected. But, swings and roundabouts. It's still a little bit under my year-end target for Tesla was $500. We're at 543, and it's getting a little bit of resistance there. So hopefully we can keep price down for a couple more months and we can rotate more into it. It's always frustrating when you have a plan and it doesn't quite execute on point. I have been rotating some of my tech positions into crypto so tech has run quite a lot. So I've trimmed some of that. A lot of it is getting fair value or overvalued. So I've rotated a little bit into crypto. That's had a big pullback, a lot of liquidations over the last week and weekend, the weekend before this weekend. But anyway, let's just look at Tesla. Let's focus on Tesla. Let's look at the chart. We can see we're really pushing up on this historical resistance. It does look like it wants to break out. It tried and it failed. The good news is we have this really good support. We've got the volume shelf that looks pretty juicy right at the Fibonacci level, which also coincidentally lines up with the price target from this blue and red line here. So the measured move completed on that. Typically, you would see more of a hesitation there. We could argue that it did stick there a little bit, but it didn't pull back and fill this gap, which would have been chef's kiss. So a lot of people get really excited when stuff moves up. I like stuff to move up in an orderly fashion, so it's more predictable. If something goes parabolic, it's really hard to figure out where the tops and bottoms are. I want it to, gradually move up to things. But so far, it has rejected under that line again. It's really undecided. I guess this week we'll probably know if we're going to get a rejection back down or if we're going to break over it. If we get a rejection back down, I would love to see that gap fill at just below the yellow line under $400. That's a good psychological level as well. I would add more at that level. Tesla at the minute, I think, is about 9% of my portfolio. Let me just check. Do it on my phone. It's probably quicker. Don't want to touch stuff. My laptop's been very strange since I've come back off holiday. I need to have a look at it. So, portfolio. It's now my fourth largest position at 8.41. But so because my other positions have grown so much so far, we all know it's been banging. And I've added to Solana and Bitcoin. The Tesla positions is fallen down a little bit in weighting. So I'd like to bump that up to 10%. But I don't want to add after it's already had this run up. I would prefer to add on weakness as always. I don't want to chase that pump. I do think the next quarter is going to be very good for them. Sorry, my phone's beeping there. Other than that, on the chart, if we do lose that kind of back test of the gap and the historical support, we have all of this volume here. This is going to be real good bottom support. If we drop back that low again, that would be the perfect scenario for me before year end. I would love to see Tesla fall back to the mid 300s. Don't think it's going to happen now. I think we've kind of broken the trend here. We had this initial back test and then a little secondary back test, and then it's been off to the races. We've made higher highs ever since. So we're kind of working with that. That's what I'm looking at. Prices to the upside, like I say, I was looking at kind of 500 target for year end. I think that's pretty possible if the next quarter comes in pretty good. Sales look good across the board. The chart is getting a little bit hot, but as narrative shifts, we can see those areas the price gets stretched. So I'm not necessarily thinking about trimming Tesla because my expectations for 2026 and 2027 are so high that I don't want to reduce my position too much now. Previously, I was kind of trading. You can see where I added a heck of a lot on this weakness, and I only really trimmed once. If we come back here, I trimmed a couple of times up here when we topped out and on this run up here. So really the chart hasn't been telling me to trim. I didn't want to trade it because I've got a longer time frame on this one. So for stuff that I'm only trading, that I'm only investing in for a year or two, I'm likely to trim in and out of it more with volatility. Tesla would have been good for that, but I really didn't want to take the risk that I missed its move. It's very hard to predict when Tesla's going to pop because it has such a very a strongly polarized narrative. It's either love it or hate it, and it's really hard to get behind it and trade it like that. RSI is getting a little bit hot, so really we would need to see some cool off. We either hesitate here, but we could break higher. I think if we look back, Tesla can get quite spicy. I think it can go to about 90 to 90s on the RSI. So we've got room to the upside if we want to have another push up. I'm just saying, if we want to hit that 500 and then pull back, that'd be nice. But other than that, the MACD Plus, we did have an overbought a few days ago. We didn't really cool off much. We had a tiny back test at that point, but flow is looking like it's stalling. Let's look at the weekly, see if we can get a better idea if we're going to get more of a pullback on this one. I mean, that light is hot on the weekly as well. It does get a little bit more headroom, kind of 80s on the weekly. MACD Plus looks good, and flow still looks really strong on the weekly, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see us get one more pop. Maybe we can push up and test this last high at kind of 487. But for now, price action is really holding within the rounds. We've got this wick to battle with in the short term, but above that, then really, nothing. We're good to go. So let's have a look at the options market. I haven't looked at the options market. I didn't take my laptop. I only took my phone, and I don't have access to it on my phone. I really should have sorted that out before I went, but I didn't have my password. So let's take a look at that and see what the big boys are thinking on it. All right, moving over to the options market for Tesla, we can look at this big old red resistance line at $500. That's a key psychological level, and coincidentally, that's what the price market makers want to keep it below. So if price moves over that, it's going to start costing the market makers more money, so they will do their very best to keep it under that price so they don't have to pay any premium out. And same for the support line, market makers want to keep it above that level, so expect price to bounce around that area. Now if we go to historical, we can see market makers normally do a very good job with Tesla, although occasionally it does slip out of their range. That's pretty standard. It's impossible for them to manipulate it all the way, but it's good to be aware of those levels and where they move to. They don't stay static, they do move, so it's careful to check back all the time. So currently, as of this week, those are the levels we're looking at. So we're not going to break 500 this week, most likely, but check back regularly because that level might move up and it might move down. If it moves down, then the broader market's getting a little bit more bearish on it, but it looks good. We're really well above the 50 moving average here. Let's put the 150 on there as well. Sometimes that one's a bit more helpful. We are looking like we're getting more bullish here sentiment-wise. Let's move the strikes out a little bit. Doesn't seem to want to... this website's been updated since I last used it, so it's a little bit different. Let's go year end, shall we? Let's go January. Have a look where volume's sitting on this one. So we've got a lot of interest for... surprisingly, January 2026, most of the volume is around $500. Shock, I know. It's like the charts are telling us something. And then above that, interestingly enough, we have a lot of volume at $600 as well. I'm not quite that bullish, but it's nice to see that there's quite a lot of interest in it. With Tesla, a lot of these really out of the money strikes, they can be really well priced, depending if Tesla's crap to the bed or if it's mooning. So it does afford some good hedging opportunities. Let's push it out to January 2027. We're getting quite bullish on this one, guys. The market really has shifted. People are taking a lot longer term, large bets on this one. There's a lot of strike volume up there. So we're in line with the market. Maybe we're not quite as bullish as the market, broadly speaking on this one, especially with the larger institutions that will use options. I'm a little bit more reserved, but it seems to be where they want to push narrative. And if we're seeing volume that is really high in a lot of these, chances are the broader market's going to want to push price up to that. We will see volatility in this one though, so it's going to be good to trade if you only want to trade it. News-wise for Tesla, I don't want to go too far in the weeds. We can look at the insider owners here. For the big boys, the institutions, it's ticking up again. They're starting to increase their positions slowly. More importantly, though, what happened while I was away is Elon had that monster run on buying. I think it ended up being about $1 billion worth of stock. I don't believe I've ever seen a CEO buy that much of his own stock, especially with the pay package that he's got coming to him. If this doesn't scream confidence, I don't know what does. There is a little bit of front running going on with the price. Obviously, we're not seeing a lot of the numbers coming to the bottom line right now, but that's, in my mind, that's pre-positioning. That's what I'm doing, pre-positioning ready for 2026, 2027, and then further out as I continue to expect Tesla to go through a massive growth phase. I want to be ready before this front running, hence why I positioned much earlier. Initially, I did want to, as we talked about earlier, pivot more of my crypto gains into it, but it's already on the move. Hopefully we get a little bit of a pullback. Crypto's running a little bit later and Tesla's running a bit earlier, so the crossover is not quite lined up to what we envisioned, what our plan is, but we can still do really well. Maybe not as well as we wanted to, but still we should be able to comfortably outpace the market with our positioning on this one and with Bitcoin, Solana, all that kind of stuff. So still very excited, still guns blazing, still think this company is going to prove most of the market wrong given time.
That's a wrap. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to share it with your mum, your nan, your dad, your dog, whoever. And I'll see you next time.